Now let's talk about the Interplanetary File System, or IPFS. So what is it and why is it important? Well, it's important to understand that IPFS is not a blockchain. It really has nothing to do with blockchain, but it's often used with blockchains for a very particular reason. So why is that? Well, essentially, blockchains don't store a large amount of information. Most blockchain transactions are really about sending cryptocurrency around or performing financial transactions or moving value from one place to another. Okay. So most programs that use blockchain do these types of things. But what happens if you wanted to store, a picture on the decentralized web? Well, you couldn't do that on a blockchain because it would just be cost prohibitive. And in many cases, the file size is too big to even put on a blockchain in the first place. Okay. So that's where IPFS, or the Interplanetary File System, comes into play. It's a distributed file system that works kind of like a blockchain, but not really. So let's see how. So here's how IPFS works kind of like a blockchain. Essentially, it has a bunch of different nodes that all talk to one another somewhat like a blockchain. But what are these nodes responsible, what are they responsible for doing? Well, essentially, they just store files and they let you retrieve files from them. They don't execute any sophisticated business logic. You can't put smart contracts on them. All they do is store files. And whenever you put a file on IPFS, it's going to get distributed across multiple nodes in the network. Okay, so it's going to be redundantly stored like a blockchain. It's an open network where all the nodes talk to one another. And for this reason, it gives you the benefit of censorship resistance and transparency, and the fact that your file, once it's on IPFS, is permanent. Okay. So this has lots of applications for blockchain, where if you want to store a reference to a file, you can put it on IPFS, and then you can get back a hash from IPFS and then store that maybe in your smart contract, which we'll see, later throughout this program. Now, you can put all kinds of files on IPFS. It doesn't matter. You can put pictures, you can put video, you can put JSON metadata, you can put just plain text. It doesn't matter. As long as you can save the file on your computer, you can upload it to IPFS and then get that reference back. Whenever you put a file on IPFS, it's going to give you back a hash that looks something like this. Okay, so this might look similar to the hashes that we talked about in our previous sections with cryptography. So there is a good amount of cryptography involved in IPFS in generating these hashes. So there is some technological overlap between blockchain and IPFS in this way. But essentially, this is like the location of the file. So as long as you have this location, you can access that file from anywhere at any time. So you can take this hash and then access it with an IPFS gateway, okay, which essentially is going to talk to an IPFS node. So if you want to use the IPFS protocol, you have access to a node, and you can use a public IPFS gateway like this. You just put it in your your web browser, HTTPS IPFS/IPFS, and then pass in your hash, and that will return the file. So as long as you have an internet connection, you can read this file from anywhere. So let's just look at a couple quick examples. So here's an example of an image that's been deployed to IPFS. Okay, this is just an image that I've taken from Zillow to look at a piece of property. Okay, and I've uploaded to IPFS so that you can see how it's referenced. So you literally can just access this from a web browser. I've purposely resized my window so that you can see this. You do IPFS.io/IPFS, and you put in the file hash, and that shows you the picture here. So this could be anything that you want to. It could be a picture, it can be a video, it can be text, it doesn't matter. One really popular use case for IPFS is to store NFT metadata and images. So with non-fungible tokens and digital collectibles, you have to have a picture for that or some sort of media type, okay? And, typically you're gonna have a smart contract that governs, who owns the NFTs and how many, but the actual picture is way too big to put on a blockchain, and that's what you use IPFS for. And so you also have all this other information about the NFT, like the metadata, like the color, the traits, and all this type of stuff that you can see here on OpenSea. And this metadata is stored in a JSON file that you can put on side of IPFS as well that links to this image. That's a really common way of doing things with the ER721 standard, which we're going to talk about in another section. So let's just see how that works. If you have the IPFS URL for the NFT image, you can see that like here. Okay, this is NFT that I created, and put the image on IPFS. You can see IPFS.io/ And then here's the hash. This actually corresponds to a directory, not just the image itself. You can upload entire directories. That's what's really nice. And then you can reference the individual file names inside of it. So this is the entire directory for all the NFT images. And this is just the first NFT in the list, just called number1.png. And you can actually specify the file type here. So you can also see the metadata for this particular NFT. Okay, this is number1.json. This is a JSON file, okay, for this NFT. And it has all the metadata like the name. So the Open Punks collection. This is the NFT that I created. Here's the date that it was created. Here are the attributes, like it has this color background, it has this face, it has this cowboy hat, eyes and glasses, nose, etc., etc. And then it also contains the link to the IPFS image for the NFT. So this is an example of another popular file type for non-fungible tokens that's stored on top of IPFS. So another popular use case for IPFS is putting entire websites on the Interplanetary file system so that they are censorship resistant and can't be taken down. So you can see an example here of Uniswap, which is the most popular decentralized applications that's deployed to IPFS. You can access it here, IPFS.io/IPFS. Then you put in this hash, and that's the location of the Uniswap website deployed to IPFS. And so what's the benefit here? Well, essentially, Uniswap is supposed to be an uncensorable decentralized application, a completely decentralized application. So the backend part of the website is powered by smart contracts. That's where the swap functionality goes. It goes on the blockchain. Okay, that's when you're trading tokens. All that happens on chain. But the website, theoretically, if it was just deployed to a regular web server, could be taken down. And so that's the benefit of putting on an IPFS is once it's there forever. So basically, anytime you want to find out the latest version of the Uniswap interface, you can go to uniswap.org. You can find their links to their IPFS deployments, okay? And you can see the IPFS hash here. You can just copy them and then generate the URL to any IPFS gateway that you have access to and access the website that way to where it can't be taken down. So that's the benefit is once files are on IPFS, they're there forever. You can make websites that you can't take down. That's why it's really important to put NFT images on IPFS. It's a really popular strategy because, of course, once your NFT collection's out there, you don't want your NFT images to somehow disappear or be taken down off some sort of centralized web server. So how do you use IPFS as a developer? Well, there's several ways, okay? But for the sake of this program, we're going to look at kind of a simple way. So if you're going to put files in IPFS, you have to have access to an IPFS node. So you can run an IPFS node yourself and then access your own gateway or even just a local node so that you can deploy files to the command line or through your application. If you want to create that as a developer, you can use libraries to, upload files to IPFS. It's really easy to read them. All you have to do is use a hyperlink just like you would use with any image, okay? So you can run a node in order to do that. That's overkill for most people. Most people just want to upload files to IPFS once and be done with it and not have to continue to do that, like with the NFT collection. Or if you want to deploy your application to IPFS, you just want to deploy it once and then set it and forget it. So I'm going to show you some simple ways to do that right now. So Pinata is a service that lets you upload to IPFS completely for free. Okay, you don't have to run an IPFS node. You can just go to their website and upload files. So you don't have to try this. You can just watch me do it. But if you want to follow along, you can just go to pinata.cloud and create a free account. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is just upload a text file. All right. So I'm just going to look up some lorem ipsum text. This is just placeholder text. It's Latin gibberish, basically, that's often used for placeholders in websites. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it and put it into a text file. This is going to be called lorem.txt. And, I've already registered for Pinata Cloud. So once I've logged in, I can see all my files here. You can see some NFTs that I've created with this particular account. And I can just click upload. And so once I've uploaded that, I can just select it and click upload. And there it is. It's done. So now I can copy this and go put it into my web browser. I can find any of these, other URLs where I have the IPFS gateway already, ipfs.io/IPFS, and then just paste in the file hash. Okay. All right, and there we go. I've got my text uploaded to IPFS. So again, you can repeat this process for any file that you want to, whether it's an image, whether it's a picture, whether it's a website, it doesn't matter. But for uploading your website, I highly recommend using Fleek, which we're going to do later on in this capstone project whenever we build our decentralized cryptocurrency exchange and put the front end on IPFS. So we'll walk you through that later on in the program, but Fleek's a great hosting service to deploy to IPFS straight from your GitHub account. So that's an overview of IPFS, how it works, why it's important, and I'll catch you in the next video.